I don't know. It was very weird. New York used to be known as a town where that didn't have a so-called scene. I mean, it had an art scene, big art scene. In fact, they had the writers. Excuse me, with the musically, you never had anything. In fact, it was known as the city where bands from everywhere else came to make it. If they could make it in New York, they would make it in the United States. Typical example of a band that didn't was Tyrannosaurus Rex, who I loved. Came to New York and bombed. I don't know why. They were fucking great. And they're getting out of killing themselves. And they never made it. They never made it beyond that level of whatever level they were at. So New York was kind of known as something like that. It never had anything. I say it had this art scene, and I was part of that thing too. Lou is like, I think he came out of a Queens high school. I know a friend of his was a photographer who I knew very well, who's a photographer, great photographer. I think Lou, the two of them got something together in high school. Yeah, when you think about it now, it's like, man, it was a total abyss. It's a total nothingness, which in my way of thinking is a total everythingness, you know. So, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, everybody started coming here. Wayne County, now Jane County. I had a long talk with him. It came out of Wayne County, Georgia, of all fucking places, for Christ's sakes, man. Imagine coming out of Wayne County and becoming a drag queen. He still goes back to visit an ailing mother or something. Everybody stood at the people from Queens, from Georgia, from California, Eric Emerson from California, the Dolls from everywhere. I don't know. I really don't know how this happened. And then suicide. I don't know. I can't answer that question for you, but it's a miracle. It's a miracle that was meant to be. It was this total nothingness. And out of this nothingness became everythingness. For that moment in time, it wasn't the place to become somebody from somewhere else. It was the place. And as brief as it was, or explosive as it was, I mean, it was great. It was, all the Ramones. When you think about it now, the Dolls, you know, think about all this. But suicide was there before anybody else was there. At least 2 years. We were playing, we were struggling. Could hardly get a gig. We were kicked out of places, man. We literally had to go in and put our arms up against the wall to check for weapons before they even interview us for a show. So we were there like before anybody. And then one day, I know it's on film actually, it was like, I went backstage, I heard the Ramones. I just heard about the Ramones first. I said, wow, what a great name. I have to see this band. So they played on some place on West Broadway, a loft. 1, 2, 3, 1, breaking, bam, walk off, come back, 1, 2, 3, 4, and off again, all the strings are breaking. And on it went, and then the next thing, it was like CBGBs. And I went to it, I went backstage after, I said, man, you guys are fucking great, you're gonna be great. And they thought they were insane, but of course, Johnny said, oh yeah, Alan Vega was the first one back there, but he was crazy. So, but then he said, oh, after a few people started coming back after a bunch of shows, he said, hey, maybe we got something, which they did. Obviously, man, it was just like, it was that 1, 2, 3 thing, but, you know. And ironically, I got to tell this story because the name of the band, the name of the album, this French album, was always called Sniper. Joey Ramone was in a band before the Ramones, a good year maybe, called Sniper. And they opened for Suicide in some rehearsal space, which people were invited to. So he's with this band, all the guys were like from the Bronx, and Joey was like, but he had black gloves on and glitter, and completely different than these other guys. At the end of the show, he comes up and goes, hey Al, I didn't even know he knew me. Hey Al, you think you'd do me a favor? Can you check out these other bands and see if you can find somebody for me? You know? I said, I will, Joey, I'll check it out. I never, ever heard from him, or I never could find a band. And when I saw the Ramones for the first time, there was Joey. Perfect, a Ramone. Perfect Joey. And that was this band that was called Sniper, believe it or not. 3 Bronx guys. It was just typical rock. And Joey was like, duded out. I mean, he was like, duded out, man. But it obviously didn't fit. And tall and gangly and black gloves. And then when he was a Ramone, obviously. So again, how does that happen? A couple of guys from Queens, Joey Ramone, you know, Dee Dee. Look at those 4 guys, man. What the hell, you know? They don't fit. Johnny, who became Mr. Reagan, Ronald Reagan himself, total Republican, and Joey, who's, forget it, out of space. Dee Dee, I'm not going to go with every one of those guys. I mean, I know those guys real well. But just the idea of that thing happening, and then you take the dolls. I'll tell you a funny story about the dolls. We were all called down to do a radio show, which I think was on Channel 5 in those days. I forget the name of the guy who was emceeing the whole thing, but he's an out there guy. So he had all of us weirdos on the show for interviews, and had the dolls there. Meantime, David walks into the office, fancy magazines, and he starts finding these pictures of David Cassidy in some magazine. He starts ripping them out. You know, a beautiful, beautiful office, polished, magazines. He's ripping shit out, and the papers going all over the place. And they were all there. All the dolls duded out. And even Marty Rev became our manager eventually, was there with them. But the scene afterwards, they were going out into the street, like it's Park Avenue or something. The offices were like somewhere midtown. They're walking out in the middle of the street in their garb, the dolls thing. I mean, cars were stopping along the way. People were screaming, going nuts. I mean, like bad shit, man, you know. What the fuck? You know, cabbies, the whole thing. So I was behind them, walking behind them. Pretty crazy looking myself in those days, but I was just watching the scene with the dolls from behind, going like, holy shit, this is incredible, you know. So that was the dolls. But again, how does this happen? You get a Johnny, you know, you get a David Sill. Was it Johnny, the guitar player from where, Queens? People know him from way back. No one can figure out whether he's Italian or Puerto Rican. Oh, it's too bad. They're all dead. Everybody's dead now. What is it? Two dolls are left. David and Sill.